If you think Barack Obama's approval ratings poor, spare a thought for his French counterpart. Not only is Francois Hollande's popularity somewhere in the teens, but 85% of those polled this week don't want him to stand for re-election, including a majority of those who say they vote for the Socialist Party. We are exactly at the midway point of his 5-year mandate, and with no recovery in sight, can Hollande still mount an improbable comeback, or perhaps call it a day and prepare his succession? Even the infighting within the opposition Conservatives is no comfort to the left, what with a surging far right poised to eliminate, according to surveys, the Socialists from the runoff in the 2017 presidential elections. So is the problem Hollande, or more generally, are French politics broken? Politics certainly aren't broken across the Rhine. We're 25 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The three-term chancellor is doing fine, thank you, in a grand coalition. But today's unified Germany, is it contributing to making it a fractious France? After all, Paris's hands tied by a tight monetary policy decided on the European level, a Europe that these days plays by German rules. Today in the France 24 debate, it's halftime for Hollande. With us to talk about it, Sunday Telegraph columnist Anne-Elisabeth Moutet. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome as well to John Palassin, advisor to the recently sacked French economy minister, Arnaud Montebourg.
Good evening.
Thank you for being with us again. Thanks as well to media strategist and blogger Anne-Claire Ruel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to the left of the socialists, Raquel Garrido of the party of the left, the Parti de Gauche.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Yeah, we were talking about popularity. Americans would say those are Nixon numbers. Francois Hollande's approval rating hovering between 12 and 14% according to surveys. Can he hit the reset button? More with Julia Seeger.
In a desperate bid to recover lost ground, Francois Hollande is giving a rare primetime TV interview, something the president is not fond of. The French want answers, notably, when will the economic crisis be over? His record is little short of disastrous. Unemployment has risen 27 months out of the 30 he's been in charge, and growth has stalled. He came to office vowing to get France's budget deficit below 3% of output, as EU rules demand. But since, he's pushed the deadline to 2017, a move that has infuriated partners in Brussels and austerity-minded Berlin. On the world stage, however, he's been more hands-on, with France taking an active role in the fight against the Islamic State organization and intervening in African hotspots like Mali and Central African Republic. Adding to political and economic woes are difficulties in his personal life. Francois Hollande has faced bitter revelations in a tell-all book by former partner Valérie Trierweiler, in which she paints a picture of a cold and scornful man.
John Palassin, you think back 2.5 years. Did you think we'd be at where we are now?
Well, for sure, the issue tonight for the president's interview is that the bond is broken with the French people. That bond that was created in 2012 during the campaign and the election, that is broken. The real question is, why is it broken? It's because the policy that's being carried out is not the policy he'd campaigned for. So that's why the bond is broken. So personally, what I'd expect
he campaigned on the left, but he's governed in the center or the right. Center.
Well, at least I'd say he campaigned on a balanced project. Measures for the people, measures for the economy, but not what was carried out later on. So at least the French people need an explanation if the president wants to recreate that bond.
Anne-Elisabeth Moutet?
I think it's much more of a personal matter, and it's also a feeling that whatever the policies were taken, and in the beginning there were left-wing policies, and in the beginning Hollande was almost obsessively destroying any kind of timid reform decided by Nicolas Sarkozy. He was putting back the retirement age to 60 after Sarkozy moved it up to 62. He did a number of things about employment law, and whatever it was that his predecessor had done, he changed, which is fine if you carry on like that, but there was no consistency in the policies voted, and whatever law was passed, what happened was that if people complained loud enough, the law changed. So there was a feeling that there was nobody at the helm. And the example is the flagship measure, which is a left-wing measure, which was the taxation of income above 1 million euros a year at 75%. Now, this was announced. And it was announced, and then it was struck down by the Constitutional Court a first time. It was, then people came back and said, well, it's going to be 66%. And then it was denied again. So you have a second announcement and then a denial of the second announcement. And then it was said to be unconstitutional. It was said to be unconstitutional by the council. Then they said that they would have the companies pay it and not the people who actually made the income. There were 4 announcements of that bill, which abroad gave fodder to everybody who said that socialist France was going the wrong way. And it was only applied last year. So it took them 2 years to apply a measure that gave them negative ratings absolutely everywhere. And it's, I don't even know if it's, but I do not make 1 million euros a year. I'm really sorry about this. I would pay the 75%, but still. There was this mismanagement of communication at absolutely every level. This is very emblematic because you had dozens of people who have been leaving France. And when I say dozens of high-profile people, London is now the 5th largest French town. It's got over 500,000 French people working there, and they're not all billionaires who want to escape the new tax. The feeling is that
there's far many more Brits abroad than there are French abroad.
Yes, but there's far many. The Brits always went abroad. France is not a country of immigration. The British emigrate, the Germans have emigrated since the 17th century, the Italians emigrate, but you didn't have French Americans, for instance, in America in the way you have Irish Americans or Italian Americans. The French do not like to leave France, but they do now.
And you're saying this is because of Hollande's policies?
I'm saying that it's not so much the policies, because at the end of the day, what are the policies? It's much more a question of attitude and a feeling that the system is broken, a feeling that nobody listens to them, a feeling that the government is basically a bunch of friends of Hollande from his postgraduate school days in our school. There's a feeling that there's nobody listening. So, and everything is done to make life more difficult for people who are actually entrepreneurs. So it's not a good feeling.
Anne-Claire Ruel, is nobody in charge?
I think there is a lack of leadership, yes. But the thing is, Francois Hollande doesn't listen to anybody. He doesn't listen to anybody. You have to know that. Even if he's got a great advisor with Gaspard Cancer, I think tonight it's the night. He has to surprise everybody. He has to change everything. He has to show his personality.
Raquel Garrido, is a problem the office of the presidency? It's laden with symbols, especially in France, where he concentrates a lot of power in his hand. Can he change his stripes, the French president?
Well, the French president, different from other presidents around the world, has this characteristic of being totally unaccountable of his own policy, because there is no midterm, for instance, democratic system for which he's accountable. The president in France it cannot be overthrown by the parliament. He's not responsible in front of the parliament, and even less in front of the people. So what you have effectively is that you have a campaign where many things are said. For instance, the fact that he would launch a war against finance, that he would renegotiate European treaties, that he would gain more rights for the working people, that he would change the international policy from what it was with Nicolas Sarkozy, who was very, very close to Washington and NATO. And all of those things were very quickly finally changed when he actually was elected. And why? How can this happen? How can this undemocratic shift happen? Well, it happens because the French Constitution lets it happen. Because in France, as I said, this Fifth Republic we have since 1958, which was handcrafted by the General de Gaulle for himself, allows for this. So
there's not enough checks and balances.
And Francois Hollande isn't the General de Gaulle. So, well, that's what's going on. I mean, something that was certainly criticized but accepted more or less because of this incredible man that was General de Gaulle has been finally totally gone into illegitimacy with the person of Francois Hollande, because it's just sheerly unacceptable and undemocratic.
Viewers are not showing much love either for the president. It's too little, too late for Hollande. The damage is already done. That's one comment from a viewer on Twitter. Does the French president need to be like General de Gaulle, as Raquel Garrido says? Should Francois Hollande act more regalian, shall we say?
Well, for sure, there's one thing about the situation, and having worked with Arnaud Montebourg for a long time, you know that we share the belief that we should change the institutions for a more balanced set of institutions. For sure, the issue tonight is also the Fifth Republic, that president who is alone, with a bond broken with the French people, and that's maybe we have an institutional problem. But also, I don't think tonight is only a question of attitude. The issue, the political issue in all developed countries is getting out of that economic crisis. If people had more jobs, if people had a better life, they'd care a lot less about attitude. I believe it's a political situation, both from the institutional point of view.
John, let me ask you, you worked for what, 2 years in the finance ministry. When Elisabeth says there's the feeling among the French that there's no one in charge, did you have that feeling when you were there?
No, of course not. No, of course not. There were people in charge who worked a lot for their country and did their best to do things which weren't done by the previous governments. And we had a lot of, the bad job to do. That's the truth. Thing is, there may have been a bit of confusion because, once again, there was that campaign and there were two major issues, bringing jobs to the French people and finding a way out of the crisis. So then, what was the right measures to implement, and how would the president and the government convince the people to do so? And I believe that on that point, maybe it wasn't clear enough. And what French people want tonight is a clear vision of the future and where the country is going. That's what we lacked up to now, I guess.
All right, one reaction.
That won't happen. That won't happen.
We'll see. You haven't seen the show yet.
But you said yourself, it's not about the show. It's not about the attitude. His attitude is one of a monarch, because, as I said, France's institution allows for that. So it might be a primetime monarch or something like a Saturday Night Show monarch, but it'll be a monarch, and he's not going to shift his policy. You might have some intention.
He has a policy?
Yes, he has a policy. I disagree with you when you say that he's been shifting around with uncertainty. I think that he's totally built in the European Union's austerity plans. This idea that international competition will bring well-being, that you have to lower steel tariffs, that you have to open wide international trade, and all of those theories that haven't worked, and it's certainly not for Europeans, and it's certainly because our industry needs to be protected, because the public services needs to be protected, because we need to be thinking of what needs to be done environmentally wise, and that needs public intervention, state intervention, lots of money to be put into policies. And Francois Hollande disagrees with all of this, what I would call eco-socialist, the new left, ecological left policies. He disagrees with that. He agrees with Nicolas Sarkozy on economic policies.
But can we afford it? I mean, it would be nice, but can we afford it?
France is a very rich country. We produce
We have
2,000
100%
euros
of
a
GDP
year,
in debt.
$2,000 billion euros a year. We're rich. We
are in debt.
Yes, we are in debt as in other countries, and so it has to be. For instance, no country builds a school paid for by just one generation when it's going to be used by 10 or 20 generations. That makes no sense. Makes no sense.
I want the address of your builder. If you
Of a
have a
school?
school that can last for 20 generations, I want the address. But seriously, we're already
Look around
burdening young
Paris,
people.
and you have countries.
We're burdening
schools
young
built here for a
people
long
with the
time.
weight of paying for pensions in an aging country. We have 100% of GDP. We spend an amazing 57% of the French budget on the state. We can't go on like this.
Why not? What's the problem with
Because our
putting
children will have
50%
to
of your
pay it,
GDP
and
in
they
the state?
You want your children to pay for this? I think you're being selfish.
The French debt is paid for as an average
By who?
in 7 years' time. So the sheer fact that you would say that my children are going to pay for my debt is wrong. Look at how it works. 7 years is the average pay time. So it's not true. We ourselves pay for what we're using and what we're borrowing today in average.
So how
the
is
thing
it
is
that
we have distribution issues. Yes,
How
because
is it that we have not paid back the social debt, the debt of the social network system, the welfare network in France, welfare net, sorry, in France?
Yes.
We haven't paid this for 40 years, and it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And we all know that the conditions of work in hospitals are not so good. So how can we afford
for two
this?
reasons. We're
Why do we not
impoverishing-
pay
The
back?
government is systematically impoverishing the state by lowering taxes on the rich and the wealthy. That's what it has done. For instance, the highest revenue tax today in France is lower than it was under right-wing Prime Minister Raffarin. So the wealthy are getting massive tax laydowns.
And wealthy have left.
No, they haven't.
They are in Belgium,
and they
they're in
will
Switzerland.
Not.
No, don't
No.
make the situation
No.
different than it is. I mean, the austerity policy you're advocating behind
I'm
this,
not advocating policies. I'm saying, how do we pay for
I
this?
guess you are, because what you are saying is that we should...
No, you're guessing. Do
No,
not guess.
I'm not. I'm listening at you. And I guess that you want France to reduce its debt at the moment.
Yes.
The problem is reducing
some
the
stage.
debt at this stage of the economic cycle will only make the debt higher. Everybody knows that, and all other countries. The United Kingdom, which has a freer monetary policy, the United States, Japan, all countries led different economic policies. It's a European issue and it's not an economic one. And what we would hope for is a more balanced policy. A more balanced, it's to say, don't break the growth rate when we're just finding our way out.
We have a
of the
growth
crisis.
rate?
We do. We have a strong economy, a diversified economy. With many strengths. That's one thing I saw at the ministry. And if I may say, French people went to London, mainly, have been going to London for a long time because they're talented and because they love working abroad also.
And because there are jobs in London and there are
was
no jobs
already
here.
the fifth French. London was already the fifth French city, as you said, before all that happened. The question today is carrying out the right policy, not just describing the situation.
Well, you were in power for 2 years.
We did. We were.
Okay, what happened?
Well, we worked hard. We saved some jobs. We started industrial projects to renew the industrial system. We, together with unions and large companies, small companies, we carried out important measures to try to strengthen the economy, to try to bring
Why
those
is
new
everybody
jobs.
unhappy with
And
you?
that is a long-term policy. Of course, you can't question it 2 years after. The main issue is a little more complicated than just saying we should spend more, we should invest, we should spend more.
Maybe the question is communication. Maybe.
No,
What do you think of that?
I'm sorry. I was in politics with Anna Monba. I can't believe it's only about communication. It's about
not
what
only,
you do.
but it's part.
It's about what you do and how you explain what you're doing.
Getting
Those are
your
long-term issues.
Getting your message across, one of the big issues. We will broach that when we come back, and also how you get that message across, not just inside of France domestically, but at the European level. Stay with us. It's the France 24 debate.